Your Graces, share unique, personal, memorable stories with His Holiness Pope Shenouda. Ever since His Holiness passing, I've slowly realized how blessed we were to live in his era. I feel particularly blessed, personally, because I served as his disciple for 6 years in the monastery. I wasn't, I was very young when I went. I was 22 when I went into the monastery. So he really took me under his wing as his son, or probably his grandson. It was a very personal relationship. And I joked with His Holiness when I became a bishop and said, Your Holiness, I'm very thankful for these 6 years that I spent with you, because each year is almost 10 in terms of the experience I gained. And it really was. And my first lesson was interesting. It was in the plantation, and there was a lemon tree, it was a lemon orchard outside. And so I was sitting in my cell as a novice, and the monk who was looking after the resident at the time, Abuna Pavlos, we had a Volkswagen minivan that was our official vehicle. So he pulls up right at my door, runs up frantically, knocks really hard on my door and says, Sayyidina wants you. To do what? He said, just come with me, Sayyidina wants you. So went out, got in the car, and he drove me out, and we went into this lemon orchard, and I'm expecting some sort of formality, and I see His Holiness. This was a very traditional orchard, and it was irrigated by troughs at the time, not by drip irrigation. And so you had these huge troughs where water, and so it was dry time, so he was sitting on the ground in one of these with 2 pairs of pruning scissors. Scissors used to prune trees and plants. I have no idea what this means. So I went up and said, Sayyidina, kissed his hand. He said, come, I want to show you how to prune a tree. I thought, I didn't think it was part of the job description, but sure, okay, I'll prune a tree. So he gave me a pair of scissors, and he took a pair of scissors, come with me. And he said, this is how you prune a tree. If there are branches that are intertwined, you untangle them. And then if a branch is leaning downwards, you snip it at the point where it leans downwards, because a branch should be aiming for the sun. So if it's leaning downwards, it's actually pulling the whole tree down. If you have little buds coming at the bottom of the trunk, they're taking nutrients from the tree, so you snip those. If you see lots of unnecessary leaves in one place that are blocking others, you snip them. And he said, okay, do this. And I did it. And I remember coming to one, he said, see that bud? There's a bud on the branch there, on the trunk. Cut it. And as I approached, for some reason I hesitated. And he turned around and said, عايز تديها فرصة في الحياة خلاص سيبها. If you want to give it a chance of life, leave it. And I didn't understand very much of this. And he turned to me and he said, pruning this tree is very much how you advise and guide your spiritual children. There are things you will need to prune, there are things you need to cut, there are things you need to support, and the other thing is if it's leaning, you put a piece of wood and you support it. And it was a lesson in how to advise people. It was really a Daniel's son, Mr. Miyake kind of lesson, where this wasn't wax on, wax off. This was prune the tree, and it really was. It taught me a lot, and I found that to relax. So when I believe it or not, monks need to relax too. Not always walking around chilled. So if I ever felt like I needed to relax, I would actually grab from that day on until I left the monastery, I had my own pair of pruning scissors. I would grab my pruning scissors and I would go out and I would prune the tree. And until now, every time I'm advising one of my spiritual children, that really comes to mind. So I felt that I learned in 3 ways from His Holiness. One because there were times he actually wanted to teach directly, and that was one of them. You know, he was giving me a lesson. The second, by seeing how he dealt with other people and learning from that. And the third, merely by just paying attention to what was going around him, because everything stopped with the Pope. The good, the bad, the problems, and you could avoid things. And the final one, short story, whenever we had guests who would walk around, Sayyidina would say, come and show them around. And His Grace will know there's one area in the papal residence where there are lots of roses, various colors, lots of colors. And this was said in Arabic. I'll say it in Arabic and I'll translate it. We walked into this thing, and we had a guest with us, and he turned around and said, "Ya شوفي سيدنا كل الألوان مختلفة." He said, "Look, Your Holiness, look at all the different colors." And he turned around and said to them very simply, "الألوان مش مختلفة، الألوان متعددة." So he said, the colors are not, they're not different colors, they're not differing colors, they are numerous colors. And that gives you a very important lesson. In being numerous does not mean to differ. And just lots of things like that you would pick up. So he really was just a teacher. He just oozed teaching. When I was leaving, I said, "Thank you, Sayyidina, for teaching me." And he said, "Actually, well, you actually wanted to learn." And I think that's something important for you guys. When you're dealing with your spiritual fathers, you're dealing with people, elders, your parents, your families, learn, want to learn, absorb. Absorb from everything you see. Allow yourself to become a better person by everything you witness. You'll see lots of negativity, but you'll see lots of very good things.